This is Jenny Bell from Clarington, Ohio, and I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how you doing?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show. We talk about live fire barbecue and grilling items right here in
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern, live right here on the show.
We'll do it live.
It's also being recorded. First hour will go out a little bit later tonight. You'll probably see it in the morning. Second hour Thursday, and I'll tell you about Friday here in just a few moments. Still to come on this very show this evening in the second hour, the Texas Monthly barbecue editor Daniel Vaugh, the first full-time barbecue editor ever in the country, perhaps the world. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, my new favorite place, TikTok, and the Snapchats. You can follow me on Snapchat, but guess what? I never check it.
Get that big stuff out of here.
And save yourself the effort of friending me up and then hating me every time you go into Snapchat, realizing I haven't accepted your friend request. I'm not accepting you. I don't go in. I'm not accepting Snapchat by proxy, not accepting you. But if I was in Snapchat, I would definitely be adding you as a friend or accepting you as a friend or whatever the hell it is you do on that. But I have the account just in case I decide to spark that up. But TikTok is my jam right now. The Oklahoma Joe's one that I posted from a couple weeks ago has got 40,000 views or whatever it has, and almost 60 comments, which is unheard of. Like, nobody really comments on TikTok. Well, they do, but not a lot of my stuff. That one's got a lot of comments on it. It's really the pinnacle of my TikTok career now at almost 1,400 followers inside of just a couple months. Not breaking any necks by any stretch of the imagination, but that seems to be working for some kind of promotion, I guess. But it makes me feel nice. Dave's Got Beer is watching live on Twitch, the most stable of all video platforms. If you ever go on Facebook because I'm using copywritten music and they ban me immediately, or YouTube gets a stick up their ass and don't want to show me for whatever reason, or my stream isn't going out there, Twitch never fails. So twitch.tv/BBQ Central Show. Anyway, let me get through this. At BBQ Central Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, /BBQ Central Show on Facebook, and the aforementioned Twitch, /RD Rempe on YouTube as well. And if you just want to hear us and not look at us like Johnny Mags, then you can check us out on Clubhouse, as we have an audio feed in there as well. Lastly, you can get one ad-free podcast feed experience through Apple Podcasts. So if you listen there and you don't like the ads, then subscribe there, no ads, and you pay for me every month or one time up front for the year. Very, very inexpensive. I think for the year it's $970,000.
I made $970,000 last year. How much?
That's right. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, episode 234, taking you back to June 21st, 2011. My guest this time around is fan favorite Ted Reeder, and we talk about planning a party and being able to enjoy it instead of being trapped in working the party instead of being able to enjoy the party. That's the worst. It's really the worst. You want to have this great party. You want to entertain. You want everybody to love you. but you don't plan right. You pick the worst things that you could cook, and you're all trying to do it while everybody's showing up. You're at wit's end. Well, good news. 11 years ago, Ted Reeder was on the show to tell you how to not fall into that trap. Maybe you've been doing it ever since the show has aired. I don't know what you're up to, but Ted can help you break that cycle. He gives you a number of tips to help guard against that. We also talk about appetizers, main dishes, all evergreen stuff, and all good stuff. As I was listening back, I did note Ted did seem a little bit more subdued than the normal energy ball that he is. However, the info still great 11 years later. And if you aren't familiar with Ted, really good introduction to him. You can actually go onto the Barbecue Central Show homepage in the little search icon, in the little search field, and just type Ted Reeder, R-E-A-D-E-R, Ted Reeder. All of his segments will appear over the life of the show. Inevitably, you will find the segment that referenced lamb testicles. If you look hard enough, you will find it, and it is one to remember. Don't forget, if you want to hear a guest or segment again on the show that's been lost in the archives, or just something you want to hear again, email John, let him know what you would like to hear, Jon at thebbqcentralshow.com. You might be saying, hey, isn't that the same guy that's your Michigan embedded correspondent? 100%, that guy. He does the Best Moments show. Upcoming shows for the rest of June include, you know what they include, next week. Oh, we are here. The pinnacle of American Idol Barbecue Central show every season comes down to the finals. Me and Rusty will be going head to head. We have our duet in the can, recorded. That's one that you won't be expecting. If you want to start guessing in the instant chat, first time I see it right, I will give you a prize. I guarantee you will not guess it. And it's not Islands in the Stream. Although that was recommended by Rusty, but I quickly nixed that. But next week we will be doing the finals for Barbecue Central Show American Idol Season 3. So look forward to that. Plus, remember, we do sing live next week in the finals as we have done in years past. It's going to be great. Also in July, Derek Riches, of course, next week as well, prior to the embedded correspondence. That'll close out June. And then in July, Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue. No, not Dancing Queen. Good guess, but definitely not that. Also in July, you will hear from a first-time guest. Who, you ask? One of the most influential writers of our time, Larry Olmsted, will be in. I look back through a Twitter direct message. I reached out to him like 5 years ago, and then I just happened to see him write a tweet. Is that where I saw it? And I went back in. I was like, oh, yeah, this guy. Oh, he replied to a Michael Simon barbecue message. Said, the best barbecue in Los Angeles is at Mabel's Barbecue Los Angeles. And Simon had retweeted that. And I was like, hey, look at this guy. I should reach out to him. And I went back into the DMs, and I sure had reached out to him and just lost track of it. So we've had conversation. We're putting it together. He will be in for the first time in July. Actually planning a whole hour for him because I believe there's that much potential content to get to. So look for Larry Olmsted, along with the traditional cast of characters. Leanne Whippen will be in probably towards the end of July as well. So we'll talk about her induction into the Barbecue Hall of Fame, and we'll probably try and do an origin story as well. I wanted to mention this. I'm not real big on the eulogies, people passing away. I know I did it with Ray Basso a handful of weeks ago with Derek Riches, of course, and that guy being the founder of the Barbecue Forum. But he was, fairly big impact here just in the barbecue culture in general, especially when I had first started to get into it. But specifically to this show, I can go back through since the very beginnings of this show, and there are a very small handful, a select club of listeners that I can say, you know what, he's been with me or she's been with me since the very beginning. Diva Q been with me since the very beginning, even before any podcast, just back in the message board. So she's been on the long haul ever since we got started. As I always say, we started together, literally. She's since risen to cataclysmic fame. I'm here. There was a listener, Don Geiger, went by Don G on a lot of the forums. He passed away earlier last week after an apparent blood illness. I don't know if it was a blood cancer or not. One of the original listeners / super fans of the show, would always reach out, would always email, was a huge fan of Chris Lilly and Big Bob Gibson. So I put in a call, said, hey, this guy's in New York. If you're ever looking for help. And what do you know, 5 years in a row, I'd reached out to Chris and told him the passing of Don G. And he said, wow, he actually worked with us on the team there at the Big Apple Block Party 5 years in a row. As you can see, Don is in the lead there. He's got a Barbecue Central radio show cap, which is highly illegal anymore. Not sure who the guy in the middle is, if that's one of Chris's sons. But then, of course, famed pitmaster Chris Lilly is in that picture, too, on the far with the right-hand shirt, or with the red shirt, putting all those sandwiches together, rocking some Tito's in the background. So let's raise a handle of Tito's to Don G as we send him off one last time as a fan favorite and a true barbecue ambassador. I had talked to him sometime, but we had emailed a handful of months ago. So sad to see him pass away. And again, one of the original fans and listeners of this show. So, Don, you'll be missed, and certainly appreciate all the listenership and dedication you gave to the show all the years. All right, we will be getting to Mr. Daniel Vaugh here in just 1 second. I'll talk to you about Yoder Smokers designing and building all of their pits right here in the United States, building pride through craftsmanship and world-class customer care. That's the backbone of how they've built the company. This approach translates into what can be a truly bespoke style product that elevates gatherings with friends and family, honored to have a trusted place in the backyards of America. From pellet grills to wood-fueled offset pits and charcoal grills, consistent blue ribbon flavor has become synonymous with the Yoder Smokers name. Make no mistake, Yoder Smokers flavor-driven design, unique to each style of pit. And the team has developed their cookers to perform time and time again while outlasting the competition for generations to come. It's this generational thought that's rooted in the handmade products, defines the integrity of the core values. American-made quality, endless flavor, the benchmarks of Yoder Smokers. Visit yodersmokers.com and grab yours today. We are back with Daniel Vaugh right after this. Stick around, be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show, presented by the Ryder Deluxe Pellet Grills from Oklahoma Joe's. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet, currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Whether you are just a beginner or you are a steeped professional, definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them Barbecue Central Show sent you. In fact, just sent 3 opportunities for Noah Glanville to come on the show through next month and into August, so we'll see if he takes any of those. Joining me in the second hour tonight, the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine. You see him on the show quarterly as we talk about the goings-on in Texas and the barbecue world in general. We race to the Oklahoma Joe's Ryder DLX Hotline. And welcome back, our pal, Daniel Vaugh. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, we are great. Great to have you back. 3-month hiatus, as I think were you in England last time or the greater UK area? Is that a thing?
Yes, I was in London with the family over spring break and got to enjoy a few barbecue meals while I was over there. Texas Joe's barbecue and Smokestack as well, both doing very different types of barbecue, but definitely both influenced by Texas.
Is the Smokestack one? I might get out of my depths here really quick as I start to think about what I'm going to say. Is that the Mitch Benjamin one? That he had, or did he have a hand in putting together?
He may have. I'm not really certain about it, but it's got little bit fancier version of barbecue. Actually, one of the things that was really memorable was the smoked cod roe and olive oil appetizer that was meant to spread on bread. And as I was eating it, I was like, oh, this is smoked fish mayonnaise. Like, that's what this is. Right?
Were you just eating with a spoon?
It's eggs and oil whipped together. It just happens to be smoked fish eggs instead of chicken eggs and oil whipped together. So, yeah, it was actually quite enjoyable. But the smoked chicken wings there, the pork rib, yeah, they had some good stuff there. Texas Joe's, crazy enough, the most memorable thing. Not that the barbecue was bad, but the cheese fries. Something about the cheddar cheese over in England. Just there's nothing really to compare it to here.
In the past, and I'm talking past, I've heard from folks that are either UK residents or English residents that say, the meat's okay, but it's nothing really to write home about, or it's not like what you have over in the States. Is that since ramped up, would you say?
I do think it is ramped up some, but I mean, certainly if you are looking for that good fatty cornbread prime beef that you would normally get in an American brisket, you're not going to get that same sort of sensation over there from the beef, and that goes with the steakhouses as well. It's certainly on the gamier side of things, which I think for a lot of Europeans, that's what they look for in beef, is to have that really dense beefiness and that more grassy, earthy flavor in the fat, more developed, yellower fat. I mean, the thing is, in the U.S., the thing that we love, it's not so much corn-fed or marbled or whatever. We like young beef. We like really young beef. We like it to be slaughtered young, and over there they let it mature a little bit longer and are more patient with letting it mature.
So when you say we and they, in terms of just some dope like me or the guy down the street, I don't think we have any idea if we're eating young beef or old beef. Why wouldn't we let our beef age up? Wait, I guess, am I completely wrong in that assumption? I mean, you might be different than most considering what you do, but for just the consuming public, I don't know if they have any idea what age beef they're eating at all. They just think they're eating steak.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I go back to years ago. My daughter's now 13. And so she knows better. But, when she was younger, she would talk about, where the meat comes from. And, well, it's just like really old cows, right, Dad? That they are about to, that are about to die anyway. It's like, nope, we like them young. Like
Wow, just bringing that truth. I'm sorry, honey.
I'm sorry, kiddo. If you're eating American beef, there's a 99% chance that you're eating beef that is 2 years old or younger.
Wow.
And in the UK, it's it's not abnormal to have beef that's 3 years old. There are certainly some places that really they market their really old beef, like in areas of Spain where 10-year-old, 12-year-old cattle are prized for their highly developed flavor. I remember the first meal I ate in Barcelona when I went there was a steakhouse, and they had a whole carcass dry aging behind a glass case.
Wow.
On display at the restaurant. And I ate a 7-year-old dairy cow that had been aged for 8 months or so. Like, it was old beef. And
wow. Old beef on many different levels.
Old beef on many different levels, yeah.
Wow.
And the grassiness of the fat, the color of the fat is a lot different. And, the marbling, it isn't there like we see in prime American beef because, here we do it, we slaughter them young because we want to spend as little time and money on the feed as possible before getting a return on that investment.
Taste-wise, is it just personal preference? Like you think it's, I'm not saying you, but would you say, it's more, for lack of a better term, it tastes more mature, there's a bigger depth of flavor, or the fattiness has a different, I'm going to make up a word, unctuosity to it, where the younger stuff is, just what we're used to? I mean, would it, cost aside, could it sell and be real big here?
Well, I mean, I think that if you looked at the idea of letting meat rot and get moldy in a case in a controlled environment for sometimes a year, to get dry aged beef that we now prize in steakhouses, I think if you'd introduce that to the to the idea of American restaurants 20 years ago, you would have been laughed at. But we accept it now. It's prized. You pay a premium for it. And I think there's an audience for all types. I mean, I know there are people who are happy to pay a premium price for dry aged beef, and people who would much rather just pay for your standard wet aged beef and get a better deal on it, and they enjoy the flavor more. But yeah, it is more unctuosity. I think just in general, it's just tougher as well. I mean, it's an older animal. It's really the big difference. It's really a similar difference between mutton and lamb. If you've ever had mutton, it's got a much gamier, sheepy flavor, especially if it is a wool producing sheep. It's going to have even more of that lanolin flavor. Whereas what we generally enjoy here in the States is lamb, which is really young sheep. It's kind of a trend, right?
Yeah, I never thought about it. I mean, that's a great way to describe it. So, and I'm just kind of a new lamb adopter. I think it's been 2 years now, but prior to that, I had never had any lamb. I think my dad ate lamb, but it was kind of foreign to me. Never really had any interest in it. And then when I was at Noah Glanville's house, staying over there for a volleyball tournament with my daughter, his kids wanted it for dinner. They were like good kids. And these were like young, especially then, it was 3 years ago, whenever it was. They were younger kids. And they were like, oh, we want lamb. I was like, what the hell is wrong with these kids? They want lamb? Like, that sounds weird. And we made it. And I was like, wow, these kids are the smartest kids I've ever met. And it makes sense. I mean, look at their parents. But and I've been a devout lamb eater ever since. One time, Pat LaFrida was on the show, and he said, I'm no lamb connoisseur. Maybe you have a much more expanded palate than me when it comes to lamb. He said, New Zealand lamb is some of the worst lamb you can get. And I've had other people who are either from that area of the country or Australia go, he said that? And they're like, some of the best lamb ever is actually coming from New Zealand. Do you have a thought on that?
I mean, I don't really have a real strong opinion about New Zealand lamb. I know that there are a lot of good lamb producers in and around Texas. The Capra Farms, if you order off of their website, they use it's really about the lamb breed. If you grew up and you ate lamb for the first time and it tasted like, the sheep barn at the county fair smelled, good chance you were eating a breed of lamb that is bred for its wool, and it has a high lanolin content, and it has that in the fat as well, especially in the fat. And if you get a meat lamb, like a Dorper breed, then it doesn't have those sort of off flavors. So a lot of it is just choosing the right lamb. It's kind of the same thing with duck. Like if you get a Rohan duck, it's got much less of those gamier flavors. It's a more mild duck. And so it's not going to taste like a wild duck that, you go out hunting for.
Daniel Vaugh joining us here on the show, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor, tmbbq.com, the website, and you can follow him on the Twitter at BBQ Central Show. Can I pick a nit with you just for a second?
Sure. It happens all the time.
When did this 2 free articles become a thing on the Texas Monthly site before all the hurdles and roadblocks and you suck, you're a cheapskate thing roll up? Because I was doing a little research on the show, and it was like, you only got 1 free article left before we tell you to F off. And I was like, not really. And then I went, and that was it. All of a sudden, I can't read any more of your stuff. I have to be a subscriber in order to get content. I mean, look, porn remains free on the internet, Daniel. Shouldn't TMBBQ be taking their lead from porn?
No. I'm going to say strongly no. That's not where we take our lead from.
It's a billion-dollar industry. Maybe tens of billions.
Not TMBBQ. It's not. sometimes I like to take my kids to the doctor, and that requires medical insurance, and my employer has to pay for that. So sometimes it's nice to get a raise too. So yeah, I'm not going to complain too much. And I think, what do we ask for? Like $14 a year, $12 a year.
I don't know. I saw that and I was like, are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I'm telling the screen, do you know me? Do you know me? I know. He comes on my show. The screen never says anything back. Crispy.
I subscribe to Texas Monthly so that I can be able to look at those articles online.
I don't believe that for 1 second. You wrote them. They're on your hard drive.
I have been a subscriber to Texas Monthly since I moved to Texas, and I continue to renew it year after year.
Really?
Yeah. I think most of the people who go to the office, I live in Dallas. Yeah. The Texas Monthly office is in Austin. And I think most of the folks at the office just pick up the copies there and read them there. And certainly if you're on the network in the office, like there's no, there's no pop-ups and no blockers that show up. But yeah, I've been a subscriber for, 21 years now.
Here's a recent article Daniel Vaugh wrote before I was jammed up. Crispy.
So we're only going to talk about 2 articles today, huh?
Yeah, that's all I could research. No, I have some other things that I've been waiting for over the last few months. Crispy chicken is a thing, or as you put, is having a moment in the article. But crispy chicken is all.
And that's not as I put it. It's the having a moment thing. That's the headline writers. The having a moment thing is long past having a moment in headlines. We need to get rid of having a moment. What's
the better headline? Is you wrote the article.
Well, my whole point with the article is that it's now taken a starring role. A half a smoked chicken was just something that was offered at some barbecue joints, and usually was just seen as a poultry option for people who didn't want the beef or the pork. Right, you had to have it. That was overtaken in the past decade or so, pretty heavily overtaken by turkey breast. Smoked turkey breast, it's easier to cook. It's just easier to hold. It's easier to serve, especially easier to serve small portions of. Whereas a chicken, if you're going to serve it, you're going to serve a half one or a whole one or a quarter of one. And so now, though, I've seen several places really spend a lot more time and attention on the way they're preparing and serving their half chickens.
So is it just somebody decided to add a little bit more heat to it and eat the chicken skin? I mean, look, smoked chicken skin is really usually it looks really good. It's
smoked
good.
Chicken skin is
Yeah.
And as I was writing the article, I didn't realize the article that I was really writing was that excuse me, as you might have heard in my voice, I've got a little throat thing going on here, but the thing that I really learned myself in researching the article and taking notes on it and over months, like tracking down the places that was doing really great chicken, was the fact that they all, or many of them, had BQ grills, meaning that they had a direct heat cooker. That it's a specific one made in North Carolina. It's portable. It's easy to use, easy to move around. So a lot of people who want a small direct heat cooker and don't want to build like a brick pit or a concrete block pit, buy one of those. And so it's a way of doing direct heat chicken, directly over the coals, and make it to me a lot better than what you can do in an offset smoker. Now you can get good chicken skin out of an offset smoker. Most of the time it's people who really understand their smoker, have shelves in it and have a real hot spot in it, and are moving their chicken up to that hot spot to really get that skin crisp and really get the hot breeze of that smoke flowing over it. But for the most part, the ones that I really loved were places using that BQ and doing direct heat cooking. Of course, Snow's doesn't use a BQ. They use a steel smoker or a steel cooker that was welded together by owner Carrie Bexley, and Tootsie does the mopped half chickens directly over the coals, gets that nice crispy skin. But you're right. There's nothing worse than flabby skin on the chicken, right? And so to be able to get that direct heat, to be able to, even if you smoke it first, finishing it over direct heat really, really helps really helps you want to be able to eat every morsel but the bones.
So will a lot of the restaurants that are doing this cook them through, let's say, hold, and then as they're ordered, bring them back out to or wherever this high heat grill is and give them a couple minutes to just finish them up and then serve? I mean, that's got to be a little bit more of a hurdle process.
Well, you'd think of it as kind of a hurdle, but it is a way to be able to hold that chicken more easily. If you hold it, for a long time before it's quite done. Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you hold it before it's quite done and then finish it, then you're able to ensure hot, crispy, fresh chicken to every customer who orders it.
Daniel Vaugh joining us here on the show, tmbbq.com, his website at BBQ Snob, if you want to follow him on Twitter. I'm asking seriously, can I hold you over into the next segment for a little bit, or do you want to call it a day here?
Yeah, you can hold me over. I'll finish off my coughing fit on the break, but yeah, maybe I need to get some carbonated water, maybe some hot tea.
Bourbon,
give me back
bourbon, something like that. Why not?
Yeah, maybe bourbon might work. Yeah,
that's right.
We'll see what remedy I can come up with
All right.
on our break.
Then we will be back with Daniel Vaugh here in just one moment. I will do the last piece of business here before we talk about the last couple items. I had mentioned it last week. I'm still actually waiting to circle up with my guy, David McDowell. David Leans, right? Of course. What do we know? It's getting towards the end of June. Soon it's going to be July. And by this time next week, it's going to be the end of December. And then where are we? We wasted a whole year trying to get fit, healthy, lose some fat, all that fun stuff. $200 a month. That's all you have to invest. And now you have access to a pro like David. Did you know that some coaches like this are charging $500 a month? And for what? A canned diet plan and 1 to 2 check-ins a month? Forget it. When you sign up with David, you get access to a resource who's available effectively 24/7. Things have gone so well that he has only a few slots left. People jumping at the $200 saying, hey, I need somebody to help hold me accountable. $200. This is what I'm telling you. So, how do you get a hold of them? Well, when you're in the program, you can eat barbecue all year round, and you've got assistance around the clock. Just a text message, an iMessage, or a WhatsApp message, or an email away. He's also available to FaceTime, Zoom, WhatsApp video chat, whatever you need, even on short notice. Kidding? It's great. Hit up the website, davidleans.com/BBQ. That's davidleans.com/BBQ, and join me as we decide to take control of the fitness of the diet and lose the fat. Come on, davidleans.com/BBQ, $200 a month. Join me. Let's do it together. We're back with Daniel Vaugh right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
This portion being brought to you by Smithfield. Head to smithfield.com right now for recipes as well as tips and tricks from well-known live-fire cooks like Darren Worth, Jess Pryles, Giles Cridlin. Mouth-watering flavor and no artificial ingredients. Smithfield Fresh Pork is quite simply some of the finest pork money can buy. The trusted choice of top cooks at competitions and at home. And yes, for whatever reason, there was a weird buffer going on. Maybe my software was having a coughing fit, was jealous of our guest, Daniel Vaugh from Texas Monthly. Who knows? Hopefully you're all cured out there. If you're going to cough again, if you want to just hold the hand up, I can, actually dump it out and it'll be nice, clean audio, whatever you want to do. No problem.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I got some of the some Treaty Oak bourbon here.
Treaty Oak. All right. What are the flavor notes on that?
Well, bourbony. It's very bourbony.
Well, I can't taste the thing because I can't smell, and I'm. It's got a level of unctuosity to it.
Full disclosure here.
Oh, wait a second.
You know, after two plus years.
Central Show exclusive news update.
Welcome to the breaking news desk. Greg Rempe right here in Cleveland, Ohio, that breaks the most live-fire breaking news as it's breaking across the country, nay, the globe, as we go to Texas for this breaking news and Daniel Vaugh.
Well, after 2+ years into the pandemic, I popped my first positive COVID test this morning. So,
you're kidding?
Yes. So, just to show you the dedication that I have to the Barbecue Central show.
I fear if it would be like tomorrow or the next day, we might be in dire straits here, depending on what kind of an effect it might have. Not to one-up anybody, but my wife, it was like 2.5 or 3 weeks ago, right along the same timeline, you, myself, my wife, all COVID-free all along this time. And she went to work for the first time in like 6 months after getting her knee replaced. And she works in a nursing home. And you got to get COVID tested when you go in. And she started to walk away. And the lady's like, oh, honey, come back here. And she's like, you're positive. Get out. And away she went. And she was sick as a dog for a week. And then finally in that second week, it started to throttle back a little bit, but hopefully you don't get any worse than this. You getting any fevers or, what are the symptoms at the moment?
I haven't gotten any fevers. I was happy about the fact that over several years I haven't really had the sort of sinus infections that I get pretty, at least a couple of times a year. I haven't had to deal with those for a long while now, thanks to, all the mask wearing and just not going into the office, things like that. And this is basically what it is, right? I've got nose congestion, sore throat, and that's pretty much what I've got going on. So, the congestion. I've been, I won't go into all the remedies that I've been going through, but the best one thus far has been the Treatio cure. Yeah. It's the day drinker, even though it's dark.
Yes. Well, whatever we can do to quell the symptoms. And so we hope it doesn't get any worse for you there. So let's continue on here.
Thank you.
Your, counterpart or colleague or whatever the correct term is here, Chuck Blount from the San Antonio Express News, or perhaps it's News Express, I forget. He wrote an article semi-recently that we chatted about here on his last visit about something making its way onto the menu of pretty esteemed barbecue restaurants. And he noted a smoked burger was showing up on more and more menus. So, can you, as a barbecue editor, the first full-time barbecue editor in the country, can you corroborate that? And if so, your thoughts about a burger making it onto the barbecue menu?
Yes, absolutely. In a headline that I did write and they kept, I wrote about burgers being the new sausage. Because, the sausage for the longest time, old meat market style barbecue joints, the sausage came from the scraps from trimming away the brisket and trimming off the flap on the spare ribs, things like that. And that's where you got the meat for the sausage. It was all those trimmings, grind them up, season them up, and stuff them into a casing and smoke it, and you've got that smoked sausage. But I think a lot of pit masters who maybe don't have all the equipment or the time or the help to create those sausage links have realized that a lot easier way to be able to use up those scraps is grind up that all those brisket trimmings and turn it into a nice fatty smoked burger.
Do you think sausage is overrated?
No, absolutely not. No, I love a smoked burger. I mean, it's delicious. But as far as I was at Brick's Barbecue in Fort Worth a few weeks ago, and they had just gotten through a lot of different rounds on their jalapeno cheese sausage, and I ordered several other things. I was actually there for the chicken, the direct heat chicken, but they said, you got to try the sausage link. We think we've got it. And I took a bite into it, and I mean, that taut casing, like you could just see the fat running underneath the casing, and you could see the jalapenos and the cheese underneath. I took a bite of it and just like burst, and there's that sort of experience you can only get with smoked sausage, like a well-smoked, just super juicy, nice, snap to the casing. These are all those things you can only get in the sausage. It's an eating experience that you can't really replicate with, a pork rib or brisket or a smoked burger. So no, sausage is not overrated.
Is smoked burger more in the fattish category at the moment, or do you think that's something that's just going to remain because of you being able to utilize those scraps and trimmings? Does make for a good burger. Will that stick?
I think it will stick. I think the reason that the smoke burger I think will stick is because if you wanted to use up all those trimmings, and by the way, with the price of brisket, there's no throwing away brisket scraps anymore, right? And I think that's a good thing to continue, right? We shouldn't be throwing away perfectly good beef that could be ground up into a burger just because, even if brisket's cheap. But I think the easier thing to do would be to do it on a flat top, right? A lot of the smash burgers, things like that. But you need a flat top, and that's not just like a fryer. That's one of those things that not every barbecue joint has. But every barbecue joint does have a smoker, so you can always smoke those burgers whether or not you got the flat top or not. So I do think it's something that's going to stick around. And it's like you got everything else, right? You're going to have buns at a barbecue joint for your barbecue sandwiches. I guess you don't see a whole lot of cheese on a lot of barbecue sandwiches, but it's pickles, onions. These are things that are going to be around at a barbecue joint anyway. So you're not really asking much to keep the smoke burger on the menu.
Do you see meatloaf at any barbecue restaurants down there?
I've seen meatloaf. I think meatloaf was a fad. Meatloaf was one of those things where you saw it at a bunch of places. I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and I don't really see smoked meatloaf much anymore. And I think it's because it's unlike a burger that's really able to take smoke on all sides. The meatloaf's really just going to get smoke on top. And then where do you put the sauce? Whether it's a ketchup-based sauce or barbecue sauce, where do you put the sauce on that meatloaf? It's going to be on top, right? So you're not going to get much of a crust on it. And unless you're smart enough to do it in a perforated pan and get rid of a lot of that fat, the slices get kind of sloppy and just kind of fall apart because there's so much fat in there. And so meatloaf, I think, is a fad that's come and mostly gone. But I think the smoke burgers are here to stay.
Robert Moss was on the show last week, and he was talking about a trip that he had there. That's right, your Carolinian nemesis. He was really speaking about how the side dishes in Texas were really smacking down there, and that worked us into a discussion about my opinion on side dishes and his opinion. Oddly enough, they were differing. He was very all about side dishes and how this is a great thing and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? Fuck side dishes. I'm going down to eat barbecue. I could care less if you got great beans or an Asian spun, whatever the hell it is. I want brisket. I want turkey. I want chicken. I want the stars of the show. If there's a good side dish, great. Banana pudding's a different story. But side dishes, I don't care. Where do you fall on that?
I love side dishes. I mean, I'm
Does it factor into your when you're judging or when you're evaluating a restaurant?
Well, I mean, does it factor in? I mean, everything factors in, but it's like the meat is first when you're talking about judging a barbecue joint. I mean, it's about the meat. But if you've got a place, you got two places that are a couple blocks from each other. One of them does incredible brisket, incredible turkey, sausage, ribs, right? The next one does all of those as well, but instead of canned baked beans and a tub of potato salad from their restaurant supplier, they make their own, or they're a place like Interstellar Barbecue that has their smoked scallop potatoes, which if you have had those one time, then you would no longer say side or oh my God.
You all right? Uh-oh!
Get that big stuff out of here.
What was chilling is right before the... I'm going to guess that he's going to show up here in just a second. But what was chilling, he must have seen it going away quicker than I saw the connection going away. And did anybody else hear that? Right? Oh, my God. Like he saw somebody in the complete blackness behind him coming over his shoulder, and maybe we're now witnessing the former Daniel Vaugh of Texas Monthly Barbecue. But that was somewhat chilling. Really? Wow. Really weird. So, or maybe the COVID symptoms are just now, boom, overtaking him. He's like, wow, chills, the fever, everything. Even worse, maybe he's really gone. Not in that way, but like the battery died, or, who knows? We learned last week when talking with John Marcus, although we were running on 2 hours at that point, and his computer died because it was powering his microphone as well. So the computer had to power the computer and the microphone. So we learn things here on the show, and that's what it's all about. Did I get through all the reads? 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I did. All right. I feel like we were coming up to the end of the segment there. So it looks like, I'm going to guess now, Daniel's out. But again, that was a very chilling bit of English right there as the connection cut out. So, what are we going to do? We'll give Daniel just a second here. I'll watch in my switcher. I'll also keep an eye out on the email. And we can try and play a game, of course. Everybody loves to win stuff. So if you have a Clubhouse account and you want to jump on over into Clubhouse, we can figure out something to give away. Wait. There you are.
Man, I think my computer has COVID too. I don't know what just happened, man. My computer completely shut down. I'm plugged in. I got battery. I got everything. It just, boom, dark.
I was just saying it was really chilling that you must have been seeing this happen, half a second before we could actually see it. Because you can see, you're not looking at the camera, you're looking at the computer, and then all of a sudden here you go, oh my God. And then the connection stopped, and I was like, oh, what came out of the darkness behind him that he saw that we can't see? This is terrible. So
it was Robert Moss.
Yeah, no kidding. He's coming to get you with his Carolinian rice.
Yeah, he met me at Dane's Barbecue in Fort Worth, and I swear he told me a time he was going to meet me, and then he showed up about 15 minutes later, I think just so I would pay for it. Because he knew I'd be in line. But we had a delicious burger there as well. We had some good sides. Man, the beans there, they do these beans and they put Fritos and cheese on top. And it doesn't sound like much, but that really changes the side of pinto beans. That was delicious. But if you still want to talk about sides,
yeah, for sure.
I love sides. I love the variety in sides. But if you've got a place that has really great meat, and that other place that's just down the street that also has really great meat, but also has great sides and desserts, well, which place am I going to choose? Which place am I not am I going to choose? Am I going to suggest that you go visit? And it's the one that's got the whole package.
When you are evaluating, for instance, Goldie's is sitting atop the Texas Monthly list currently. Do they also have exceptional sides, or they just make really good main star barbecue?
Yeah, well, they do both. They don't have quite the variety of sides that some of the places have, but the ones that they do have are really well made. Even their coleslaw is fantastic. But they do have this one side that you don't find much in Texas, and it's kind of like the smoked burger. It is a pork hash, and they take all their pork trimmings and they turn it into this basically like a pork stew, a pork gravy, and they pour it over top of rice. And it's a South Carolina thing. That's certainly where that's where you find pork hash and rice in barbecue joints or as a barbecue side. So there's very few places that do it in Texas, but Goldie's is one of them. Leroy and Lewis is another one in Austin. They do a really great pork hash and rice. And so, Goldie's, just all of their sides, not all of their sides are really outside of the norm, but every one of their sides is really well made.
Daniel Vaugh joining us here on the show. Last topic before I let you go this evening, and appreciate you joining me as always. Obviously, the 2020 Barbecue Hall of Fame class is announced. Leanne Whippen is in, John Marcus is in, Joe Traeger is in. and Mr. Mitchell, that I can't think of his first name for whatever reason.
Ed Mitchell?
Ed Mitchell. Geez, Chuck was like right here for some reason. So Ed Mitchell is in. As you look at the class, do you think that the voting people got it right out of that final list of 9? And does any one or two of the four, not that you couldn't speak on all four, but do any one or two really stick out to you this year for any reason?
Yeah, I think the one I was most happy to see get in, because I think he was probably the longer shot, was John Marcus. And I think long shot because he's not, I think, in the current like barbecue mind, right? He's not on camera doing barbecue shows. He's not at barbecue competitions, winning competitions. He doesn't have a restaurant. But I think his influence in the way that we consume barbecue media, the way that barbecue is cooked, it could be for better or worse, whatever you think of Barbecue Pit Masters, the show he created. But, I think his influence is undeniable. And I think that, I'm following Don Wynn here of Koi Barbecue in Houston on Barbecue Brawl. And I mean, all of these barbecue shows, all these barbecue competition shows, they are all born from that Barbecue Pit Masters show. And so there are so many of them as well. Like, I can't even watch them all. There's just so many barbecue competition shows out there, most of which end up being grilling shows. But that's a whole other episode here.
Would you say John Marcus is responsible for spawning a generation of barbecuers? Not necessarily just competition, but fostering an interest in competition that without those shows might have not had it?
Yeah, fostering an interest in backyard cooking as well.
Yeah.
Whether it's backyard cooks who maybe for their first 10 briskets thought the only way to get a good one was to inject it, but at least they were back in the backyard cooking, right? And I think that's what that show did more than anything, is just really inspired a lot of people that, they're watching all these guys do it. Like, why can't I do it? Why can't I take the lessons they're showing me on the show and translate it into my own backyard? And that's, the other reason that Traeger is on that list as well. It's just the amount of backyard cooks that the Traeger grill has brought about. But for me, the legacy category, just seeing Bobby Miller up there of the Louis Miller barbecue family, that was one that I think was long overdue as far as a legacy category. And one of those folks that if the Barbecue Hall of Fame had done it right from the beginning and done that large class that every other Hall of Fame does, that really large class of the obvious people who belong from the beginning, that Bobby Miller would have been in that class. And so, it's certainly long overdue that he's in there.
This year, they also, or you guys from the committee, put in that Impact Award. I was told through both Emily Park and through, who else would I've had on? Maybe Robert Moss, that it's not something that needs to happen every year, or it's not something that is mandated that it happens every year. But if for whatever reason a year defines itself as needing to have one, or something is bubbled up to fit in whatever that, I guess, like, how do you see that being defined? What's your interpretation of how that award is being worked?
Well, the reason that we came up with an award like that was that, there were many nominations that came in, either for people or for organizations, for people who ran organizations or helped run an organization that's doing good work. It was hard to determine, like, do we give all the credit for what this or that organization is doing to one person? And it just didn't make sense when, in a lot of senses, it's a group effort for many of those things. So we felt like having an award that would be able to recognize, a whole group of individuals or a specific organization for doing good work in barbecue, that was a valuable thing to have.
Anything new that you're working on you want to tease us with before we let you go and catch up with you 3 months down the road from now?
Well, I did a massive steak tasting in my backyard here, trying 12 different, mostly Texas-raised Wagyu cross beef breeds. Tried a different strip steak from from 12 different ones and tried them in a blind tasting and try to see, which ones rise to the top. And I'm not going to publish right away the results of that. I've got I got the top 5 from that group that I'm going to taste the ribeyes side by side and see if there's an obvious difference between them. But it mainly is giving me a good excuse to write about the growing trend of ranchers using a Wagyu bull to cross with their, whether it's Angus or Charolais or sometimes Angus cross heifers, and create a Wagyu cross that is Texas raised, Texas produced, Texas fed, Texas processed, and available to Texas consumers. And so there used to be just a few of these, and now you see a lot more ranches doing this, a lot more ranches putting their specific name brand on them. And I think it's an interesting story. And after I got done tasting many of them, I found a Morris Farms up in Groover, Texas, was the one that fed out a lot of these different individual name brands. And so I'm hoping to go visit them and see what their operation's like and see what they've discovered about, the best way to get that really good marbling on those Wagyu cross animals. Looking forward to reading that whenever it hits the publish. And we are talking. It's going to be beefy. I can only imagine. Wagyu beefy, undoubtedly. We're talking with Daniel Vaugh, the barbecue editor over at Texas Monthly, tmbbq.com, his website. Daniel, always appreciate the time, and we will talk to you in 3 months. Yes, I'll be there. All right. Good talking with you. And good luck with the COVID, of course.
All guests appear via the Oklahoma Joe's Ryder Deluxe Pellet Grills hotline.
Daniel, of course, a Buckeye, originally, now in Texas. So stay tuned for the beefy writing of Daniel Vaugh. All Texas stuff, right? Of course. Let me quickly scan through here and make sure that I didn't miss anything. That's 3. That's 3. No, we're good. All right, so we will jockey through this portion. We'll come back and wrap the show. You are listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
Thanks to Daniel Vaugh for joining me the last 2 segments in that second hour. Back in the day, wristwatches were made to be worn in the pocket, but after World War II, the wristwatch became in vogue. And the pocket watch quickly became an afterthought, finding its way to the stock drawers and scrap heap. Quite simply, a tragedy. And Vortic watch, helping bridge the gap between America's storied watch manufacturing past, bringing it to present day where wristwatches are finding incredible popularity once again. And here's the coolest part. Each watch that Vortic makes is unique and one of a kind. Nobody's got one like yours. Vortic founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. Right. All right, let's go ahead and get on out. All the way back in the first hour, we had, who? Stephen Reichland, yes. Then we followed him up with first-time guest Zach Myron, product manager from Oklahoma Joe's. And we closed it out in the second hour with freshly positive on the COVID side, Daniel Vaugh, barbecue editor over at Texas Monthly, tmbbq.com. By the way, if you heard Stephen Reichland, and said that he offers the mail order barbecue. That's through Planet Barbecue. But if you go to crowdcow.com, I'm sure you can link over through that website to what he's offering, ribs and the beans and all the other stuff that he was selling there. So if you don't want to cook it, July 4th, give Stevens a try if you want to. Why not? And then buy it and then tell me what you think of it. I'd like to know. Big show planned for you next week. Of course, Derek Riches is in, and the culmination of Season 3, Barbecue Central Show's American Idol, where Rusty Monson and I will be singing for our very lives, both recorded and live. You don't want to miss it. How do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.